All right, folks, I'm going to give you a demo on how to work with video files in your patches. So, like with the audio files, the location of these files is really important. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new folder on my desktop for my demo here, and I will call that vid demo files. Hmm. And then I'm going to save my patch into that folder. Great. And then the other thing I want to do is I want to grab my media files that I'm going to use, any video files that I want to play, and I'm going to put them into this folder or copy them over to that folder as well. All right, so we've got our patch here and our video file that we're going to work with. And there's a couple ways that I can do this, but one of the easiest ones is I can just click and drag that video file into my patch if it's unlocked. And it will come in a jit.playlist object. It's very similar to the playlist tilde object we use for the audio files, but it has the prefix jit. If we were going to type this in, it would be jit.playlist without the tilde. The JIT stands for jitter, which is the Mac's video processing code. So MSP with the tilde is for audio. JIT.prefix signifies stuff that works with video matrices or arrays of pixel data that become videos. So it's got some UI stuff here. We've got a play button and a loop button that's easy for us to access, but if we play this, nothing really is going to happen here because it's not connected up to anything. So the next thing that I'm going to add is a jit.pworld. And the naming here is a bit strange. This comes from, there's another object called a jit window, which creates a separate window. I'll show you that momentarily. Here we go. Jit.window. So I could have a video play in a separate window. So if I want to like throw this up on another monitor or project it or something, I could do that. And then if I want to view it though in my patch or within my patch as a preview, not as a separate window, I can use a jit.p window, which for a patcher window. So this is like an object within my patch, and I can change the size of this, and the video will automatically scale to fill this. The jit.p world, however, is nice because it implements a lot of other optimizations on the like deep back end of Macs. So it's telling Macs to do all the video processing on the graphics card of the computer, for instance, rather than the CPU, and a few other things that will ultimately result in your video playback being faster and smoother. So I recommend using the new jit.p world object for your preview, or even the jit.world instead of the window that I just showed there. So that's where the strange name jit.p world comes from, and this will give us a preview of this video in our patch itself. So that's great, but if we want to control this playback with code, these UI elements aren't going to do us any good. We need some other things. So like the other playlist, if we send it a number, it's going to play the number of the track, the track that corresponds to that number. If we send it a 0, it's going to stop everything. So this playlist has only one track in it. So if we send it a 1, it'll start that track from the beginning, and a 0 will stop it. The from the beginning is important. It's not like a play pause button. So for instance, if I add a toggle in here, the toggle will give me a 1 or a 0. It'll start it from the beginning, and this will stop it, and then it will start from the beginning again. Okay, so, but maybe I do want to do some play pause stuff. I can use some messages, play and resume. I'm sorry, resume and pause, pause and resume. Put those into my playlist input, and these will pause the video, and resume will pick it up right from wherever you paused it. So that's kind of nice if you need to do that. And these messages, right, so I'm clicking on them, but that could be coming from anywhere. So here's a bang, right, and the bang goes into the pause message, and it pauses it because the bang just sends whatever the message is through. There are some other things that we might want to set algorithmically here. For instance, we might want to loop the video. So loop takes a parameter 0 or 1 for true or false, and that sets this loop status to on or off. So if I hit this, you'll see that comes on. So now it's going to loop the video over and over. That might be something that I want to have happen all the time. Like I always want the video to loop. I never, in fact, want it to not loop. Even if I stop it, when I restart it, I want it to continue looping. So like load mess, I can use a load bang to, when the patch loads, give me a bang, send out the loop one to set that loop status to on. All right, let's move all this stuff over. There's just a couple more things that I want to show you right now that can help us with some of the dynamics of this. If our video has audio in it, that could be problematic if we're doing like a sound detection patch. We might want to change the volume of the video. So I can do that with a set clip one vol, and then I'm going to give this a value as well, a 0 to 1 value for the volume that I want the video to play at. Let's break this down a little bit. Set clip 1 is telling the playlist, okay, this is, I'm going to send you some commands for the first video in the playlist, and then the volume and the volume parameter, like 0.5, is like, okay, take that first clip, give it a volume level of 0.5. This is and it works this way because this playlist object could have multiple videos in it, right? So we could say set clip 3, volume 0.9, or whatever. But what I want to do, I want to be able to dynamically change the volume. So I'm going to say set clip 1 volume $1. This is a way to use a variable in a message box in Max. So what that's saying is from the first, whatever I get from this input, put that there and send it through. So it's saying like take whatever comes in and put it there. So for instance, if I put a flow num above my message, the flow num will trigger the message to send, but it's also going to replace the $1 with whatever this value is. And we can look at that too. Oops. With print, for instance. So if I print this message out, we will see what comes through here. So if I go in and say 0.5, enter, we'll see the message here, set clip 1 vol 0.5, and that will adjust that volume. We can do a similar thing with the speed of the video. So for that, I'm going to set clip 1 rate $1, and this will let me adjust the rate of that video playback. Make it faster or slower. So if I 0.5, it's going to go half speed. 0.1, it's going to be very slow. We can see the frames now, frame by frame, in that video clip. I can make it go fast. I can go like twice as fast, 2. So 1 is normal speed, 2 will be twice as fast. I can make it go really fast if I want, where it's going to start looking jumpy for other reasons because it's dropping frames because it's going so fast. I can make it go backwards. If I say -1, it's going to play the film in reverse at normal speed, right? So if I say -2, it'll be twice as fast in reverse. So those are some ways that we can manipulate video playback algorithmically, right? So the volume, the rate, these can be flow nums that come from some other part of the patch. The play pause you can trigger with bangs. The video you can select with the numbers. All those things are available to you algorithmically. One other thing I wanted to show you was a neat debugging tool. So I've been using print to see where what data is flowing through my chords. But if I want to know what's happening through just one chord here without putting a print in, I can add a watch point to it. So if I right click on that chord and go to add watch point monitor, it's going to put that little 1 on there to tell me that there's a watch point there. And now whenever data flows through that chord and hits that watch point, it's going to have a little pop-up that tells me what value it's getting. So when I hit this, the 0 comes through, the 1 comes through. So those can be really helpful for you to quickly see like what is actually flowing through this. Is what I think is going through the chord what's actually going through the chord or not? And then if you get to a point where you don't want those anymore, you can remove the watch point and it'll go away. There's also a print watch point. Let's put a print watch point over here. And so this one, without even having to add that print object, when I change this, we'll see over here, 1 is the number of the watch point, and it's going from message to the JIT playlist, so that's the chord that the watch point's on, and then that's what it has, set clip 1, rate 1, which is what I would expect, so that's great. And you can see all those things get highlighted when we mouse over them. So that should get you started with working with video. The last thing I want to show you today is how you can add some quick, fun effects to your video processing that you can also control algorithmically. So I'm going to insert my effects between the video playlist and the preview window. And these are sort of pre-compiled effect packages that come within Max that you can use. And they're in this Visi container over here on the left. So if I click that and go to effects, there's a whole bunch of preset effects that I can try with here. So I'm going to just show you a couple of them. You can try other ones on your own. And so let's look at the Berghoser, the brightness, contrast, and saturation one is pretty basic. You may be familiar with this idea from Photoshop. I'm going to insert this into my chord here. So I could delete this chord and reconnect it, or I can click this object and hold down the Shift key and drag it over here. And once it's overlapping with that chord, it'll kind of highlight. And then when I let go, it'll insert it right in there, which is kind of nice. And so then if I lock my patch, I can adjust these dials to change the saturation, brightness, and contrast of my video. Flip some of these around to do fun effects, basically, on the video. So that's cool and all, but how would we do that again with like a flow num or something? Well, all of these inputs for the Berghoser will let us adjust these dials, right? Set the value for saturation, for contrast, toggle the high low. So if I put a toggle, for instance, here, and a flow num here, we can see that I can toggle the high low of the brightness, and then this one will adjust the contrast. So the dials will have values on them, right? Like the contrast is saying it goes from 7, what is that, all the way up to about 8 and down to -8. But my flow num is working with a different range. It's going from 0 to 1. And then it's going to loop around. If I go above that, you can see the dial just spinning and spinning. So the Bercoser is doing some internal scaling. This is done with these Visi objects to keep them uniform. So I believe all the Visi objects, the input values for the dials, no matter what the dials say, are going to be values 0 to 1, floating point numbers 0 to 1. So that way you can use something like a scale object to map your values always to a 0 to 1 range and get something that'll be useful to you here. So that's how these work. What else? This one's kind of fun. Sketcher. Let's look at that one. Delete this. Bring Sketcher over here. Pop that in. And Sketcher is going to try to find the contours in our video and make it kind of like a pencil drawing. And again, we can dynamically change the mode, edge detection, and the contrast. So if we connect our float up here and adjust this back down, we can dynamically change how that looks. All right, so now you've got a number of ways that you can manipulate video files that you've brought in to Max.